Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
Two recent technology investments illustrate some of the Pentagon's biggest IT bets: consolidating enterprise software purchases and accelerating artificial intelligence across the military. Oracle landed a contract worth up to $7 billion to provide software and services across the Defense Department, while Accenture won an $821 million task order to expand the Pentagon's war data platform, which it views as the backbone of many of its AI efforts. They reflect a broader strategy to standardize IT infrastructure, avoid duplicative spending, and make it easier for AI to analyze military data. Federal News Network's Rachel Cohen joins me now with a closer look. Rachel, thanks for being here.
Hello, Terry.
These are huge contracts, especially for Oracle, but this one's not really about buying just one new piece of software. What's the Pentagon really buying here?
Yeah, so this is an enterprise software agreement that covers Oracle's on-premises software. So the stuff that you use, when you're in the office, right? So that portfolio includes the Defense Department, the intelligence community, and the Coast Guard. So instead of individual organizations negotiating separate licenses to use Oracle's products, everything will flow through one contract vehicle that covers the whole department. So you won't have DISA buying some and the Air Force buying some and DHA buying some and what have you. So the goal is simplifying procurement, improving their visibility into who is using what and how much it costs, and to get a better price because they're basically buying in bulk. And so they're hoping that it saves at least $441 million over the life of the agreement, which is up to 10 years. So it's the ceiling for the contract is $7 billion over 10 years.
Rachel, does this point to a broader change in how the Pentagon is buying commercial technology?
Yeah, it's part of a larger acquisition strategy. Rather than allowing lots of organizations to get separate deals, this enterprise push is something that DoD is doing at large, using enterprise agreements, the JELA program with major tech vendors. Again, they're hoping that it gets away from, inconsistent pricing, duplicative costs, because, there's multiple agreements out there. And so, the Pentagon really wants this kind of centralized purchasing to become the norm.
The other contract involves Accenture and something called the War Data Platform. What is that all about?
Yeah, so the War Data Platform is really envisioned as the Pentagon's central hub for organizing and connecting all the data from hundreds of different military sources. It started out as a tool to help the comptroller's office, a financial management tool to pull in, all of the various streams of financial data that exist in DoD. And it's sort of grown and now leadership sees the potential for it to, spin off as, War Data Platform will deal with the data that's related to, combat operations and such. And then other parts of, it's called Advana, the platform that War Data Platform is kind of spinning off from. Now it's going to be a separate effort, separate team from the folks doing the finance side. And so really what it is the connective tissue between, all of the various software systems that control, targeting data, intel data, what have you, so that it all plugs into this system that will use AI tools to go through it and make recommendations to commanders to, present, here's what we think this kind of battlefield landscape looks like, a situational awareness kind of tool.
What then will Accenture's responsibilities be under this agreement? What will they do with either the platform or the data?
Yeah, so they will work on the core software integration. So connecting all those disparate systems into the War Data Platform. So that includes, building and maintaining that infrastructure, making sure it's secure, making sure it's consistent, right? If it cuts out, that's not as useful to people. And it's less about creating new AI models, which is something, the department is also partnering with AI companies, to use their tools. But this is less about that than really enabling the architecture that makes AI work and makes it practical to use for the military.
Rachel, if you take these two contracts together, what conclusions do you draw about where the Pentagon is going, both from an AI perspective maybe and a broader implementation perspective?
Yeah, they're kind of two sides of the same modernization strategy that's really focused on standardization, right? The military has a long-standing issue of things being built in ways that don't connect to each other, don't communicate with each other. Lots and lots of workarounds have been designed over the years to make sure that everybody is plugged in and able to work together, right? I mean, that's obviously a very important part of military operations, is knowing what everybody else is doing. So, this is standardizing procurement, standardizing, the products everybody has, standardizing how data is used, and really, overall taking a much more commercial approach to software and to, building out networks than DoD has done in the past. They show that the Pentagon is looking at them as kind of strategic capabilities and not just, this is like an office IT system. But, success really depends on how well they integrate everything and how easy it is for, military users to actually use the stuff that they're buying.
That's Federal News Network's Rachel Cohen. Rachel, thanks for bringing us this story. It will be interesting to watch these two programs play out.
Yeah, thanks, Terry.
You can find Rachel's story at federalnewsnetwork.com.